Now, as we've previously mentioned, the endocrine system is interconnected with the nervous system in the human body. It is the second communication system of the body. Basically, you can call it the central nervous system's partner because they work together to regulate various physiological processes, maintain homeostasis, and influence behavior. They communicate with each other through complex mechanisms to ensure coordinated response to internal and external stimuli. So in this section, we'll briefly discuss how neurotransmitters influence us. Again, it's a slow chemical communication system that consists of networks of glands that secrete hormones into the bloodstream. And instead of sending messages across synapses like the central nervous system, the endocrine system sends messages through the bloodstream. And these hormone messages travel more slowly, but also last longer, slow but surely. So the endocrine system is a network of glands that are essentially releasing hormones directly into the bloodstream, and this affects various organs and tissues. Again, think of this as the body's chemical messenger service, and along with the central nervous system's electrical nervous communication system. And it plays a crucial role in shaping our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Key hormones, at least for psychology, include things like cortisol, which is about stress, oxytocin for social bonding, testosterone and estrogen for sex and mood, and thyroid hormones, which are about metabolism and mood. So the hypothalamus acts as a crucial link between the nervous and endocrine system. It receives signals from the nervous system and secretes releasing hormones that stimulate or inhibit the release of hormones from the pituitary gland. Now, the pituitary gland is a pea-sized gland located at the base of the brain. It's the master gland of the endocrine system because it produces hormones that control the activity of other endocrine glands. It releases hormones that, in turn, regulate the activity of the other endocrine glands throughout the body. That includes things like the thyroid, adrenal gland, and gonads. So as we talked about when discussing the sympathetic nervous system, when we face a stressful situation, it triggers the release of adrenaline, and this increases heart rate, breathing, and alertness to prepare for fight or flight. And these important glands are the adrenal glands, two small triangular-shaped glands that sit on top of each kidney. They produce and release the hormones epinephrine and norepinephrine, and these help us to arouse the body during stress. Thus, they influence the fight or flight response. Now, adrenal glands also produce cortisol, the stress hormone that helps regulate the body to cope with stress. And it also helps to regulate blood sugar levels, blood pressure, and the immune system. And there's also aldosterone, which helps to regulate blood pressure and electrolyte balance. It does this by controlling the amount of salt and water that the body retains. Keep in mind, some hormones are chemically identical to neurotransmitters, and that drugs can also influence neurotransmitter levels and behaviors. Now, hormones are produced in glands and play a crucial role in regulating our behavior and moods. Hormones can also influence our emotions, such as anxiety, depression, and aggression. They affect our behavior, such as our appetite, sleep patterns, and sexual desires. For example, the hormone cortisol is released in response to stress, and high levels of cortisol can lead to anxiety, depression, and difficulty sleeping. The hormone testosterone is associated with aggression and sex drive. So we'll take a look at this endocrine system talk on TEDx.
Over the course of our lifetimes, our bodies undergo a series of extraordinary metamorphoses. We grow, experience puberty, and many of us reproduce. Behind the scenes, the endocrine system works constantly to orchestrate these changes. Alongside growth and sexual maturity, this system regulates everything from your sleep to the rhythm of your beating heart, exerting its influence over each and every one of your cells. The endocrine system relies on interactions between three features to do its job: glands, hormones, and trillions of cell receptors. Firstly, There are several hormone-producing glands, 3 in your brain and 7 in the rest of your body. Each is surrounded by a network of blood vessels, from which they extract ingredients to manufacture dozens of hormones. Those hormones are then pumped out in tiny amounts, usually into the bloodstream. From there, each hormone needs to locate a set of target cells in order to bring about a specific change. To find its targets, it's helped along by receptors, which are special proteins inside or on the cell's surface. Those receptors recognize specific hormones as they waft by and bind to them. When this happens, that hormone receptor combination triggers a range of effects that either increase or decrease specific processes inside the cell to change the way that cell behaves. By exposing millions of cells at a time to hormones in carefully regulated quantities, the endocrine system drives large-scale changes across the body. Take, for instance, the thyroid and the 2 hormones it produces, triiodothyronine and thyroxine. These hormones travel to most of the body's cells, where they influence how quickly those cells use energy and how rapidly they work. In turn, that regulates everything from breathing rate to heartbeat, body temperature, and digestion. Hormones also have some of their most visible and familiar effects during puberty. In men, puberty begins when the testes start secreting testosterone. That triggers the gradual development of the sexual organs, makes facial hair sprout, and causes the voice to deepen and height to increase. In women, estrogen secreted from the ovaries signals the start of adulthood. It helps the body develop, makes the hips widen, and thickens the womb's lining, preparing the body for menstruation or pregnancy. An enduring misconception around the endocrine system is that there are exclusively male and female hormones. In fact, men and women have estrogen and testosterone, just in different amounts. Both hormones play a role in pregnancy as well, alongside more than 10 other hormones that ensure the growth of the fetus, enable birth, and help the mother feed her child. Such periods of hormonal change are also associated with fluctuations in mood. That's because hormones can influence the production of certain chemicals in the brain, like serotonin. When chemical levels shift, they may cause changes in mood as well. But that's not to say that hormones have unlimited power over us. They're frequently viewed as the main drivers of our behavior, making us slaves to their effects, especially during puberty. But research shows that our behavior is collectively shaped by a variety of influences, including the brain and its neurotransmitters, our hormones, and various social factors. The primary function of the endocrine system is to regulate our bodily processes, not control us. Sometimes disease, stress, and even diet can disrupt that regulatory function, however, altering the quantity of hormones that glands secrete or changing the way that cells respond. Diabetes is one of the most common hormonal disorders, occurring when the pancreas secretes too little insulin, a hormone that manages blood sugar levels, and hypo and hyperthyroidism occur when the thyroid gland makes too little or too much thyroid hormone. When there's too little thyroid hormone, that results in a slowed heart rate, fatigue, and depression. And when there's too much thyroid hormone, weight loss, sleeplessness, and irritability. But most of the time, the endocrine system manages to keep our bodies in a state of balance. And through its constant regulation, it drives the changes that ultimately help us become who we are. If you want to learn more about the ins and outs of the human body, start with this playlist, or subscribe to our channel to keep your finger on the pulse.
This third and final section introduced us to the endocrine system, a network of glands that work alongside the nervous system. Unlike the quick electrical messages of neurons, the endocrine system uses chemical messengers called hormones. These hormones travel through the bloodstream and have slower but longer-lasting effects of the body. We also focused on a few key glands, starting with the pituitary gland, which is often called the master gland because it regulates the function of other glands. The pituitary gland itself is controlled by the hypothalamus, linking the nervous and endocrine systems together. We also looked at the adrenal glands, which play a critical role in our stress response by releasing hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, triggering the fight or flight reaction. And to sum up Chapter 3 on biopsychology, we covered three main areas. First, we explored the principles of human genetics, learning how our genetic makeup, genotype, combines with our environment to create our observable characteristics, or our phenotype. We also saw how evolution by natural selection plays a role in shaping these traits over time. Next, we examined the nervous system. We learned about the key role of neurons in transmitting messages and how the central nervous system, which includes the brain and spinal cord, acts as the body's command center. Finally, we looked at the endocrine system, a network of glands that use chemical messages called hormones to regulate processes that require slower, longer term adjustments. The system, for example, is responsible for our fight or flight stress response. And together, these biological systems provide the foundation for understanding human behavior and mental processes.